On April 3rd, 2016, Ormewood Park Presbyterian Church celebrated 106 years of ministry and then closed. It was a time of grief for those who loved the church. Yet, with the church now closed, the property committee of the Presbytery of Greater Atlanta approached the new church development team. And they asked if we would like to start a new church on site or if we recommend selling the building. Well, we didn't know, so we asked for several months to do discernment work. Despite developers making generous bids on the property and the property committee not being interested in sustained property management, they granted us the time. The NCDC appointed a team, consulted demographic data, yay, mission insight, spent time in the community walking, talking, driving around, praying, and I did over 90 hours of one-to-one relational meetings with titled and untitled leaders in the area. That's where things changed. One-to-one relational meetings, like they teach in community organizing, they are one of the most powerful activities in the world. You sit down one-to-one with a fellow leader for about 30 minutes. It's not chit-chat, not looking to make a new bestie. It's not even rallying support for your new worshiping community. The purpose is to listen rather than talk. In the relational meetings, I asked questions, we shared backgrounds, values, passion, vision, all while I was searching for connection, God's leading, and to see what people might be interested to lean in on. It's the start of a professional relationship and what lawyer and social activist Brian Stevenson calls the power of getting proximate. It's in proximity that we understand things we can't understand at a distance. And community organizing teaches that there are two ways to act in the world. One disposition is to be task-oriented, concerned first with how much you accomplish in a certain amount of time or because of a certain effort. A contrasting way of being in the world is relational, and the relational posture is more concerned with who is a part of the effort and the manner in which the joint action is carried out. This is radical witness. Face-to-face meetings are truly radical acts of effective organizing. The commitment to listening means we operate on several important assumptions. 1, the other person is worth listening to. 2, time devoted to individual meetings are more important than time spent on conventional activities. And 3, identity is fluid, and even the newest person is invited into the ongoing creation of an evolving community. We intentionally opted for the relational approach, and I talked with every leader I could find, titled and untitled. Sure, we wanted the presidents and neighborhood association people and business leaders and local government representatives, but we also wanted the parent on the playground who, when she says, let's do this, people do it. Or we wanted that person who's always on the front porch and knows who's who and what's happening. Well, a few months later, the way seemed open for a community conversation. Booking the local coffee shop's event space for an evening, I emailed each of the area leaders I had met for a one-to-one meeting and invited them to a community conversation. I didn't create flyers or gifts, no graphic design was involved, I didn't write a single article, I simply emailed the leaders I met and I invited them and anyone else they thought might be interested to come. Then the coffee shop canceled our reservation. Now, I opted for the coffee shop because I wanted to be clear that just because we might be starting a new worshiping community doesn't necessarily mean we're using the building of the former church. I wanted to model some openness, creativity. We also wanted to model support of a local business, a relationship-based set of priorities. Nonetheless, the coffee shop explained they didn't have enough space. I didn't buy it, but I didn't have a choice other than to move the meeting to the fellowship hall of the former church building. Well, there, the new initiatives team of the NCDC and I set up for people. We hoped we would get 20. We set up for 40. And to our surprise, by the beginning of the meeting, every inch of space in that fellowship hall was filled. By the end of the night, 108 people had given us their email addresses. Despite impressive attendance, it was the large group question and comment time that was even more striking, in that it demonstrated this shift that we knew worshiping community leaders might want to pay a lot of attention to. I know I learned a lot. What happened is, after introductions, we had broken everybody into small groups and invited conversation using 4 primary questions. How would you describe your community? How would you draw a map of the community? We had butcher paper out, let them draw. What do you love about the community? What are some of its assets? And what are the challenges? Well, the energy in the room was electric. It was positive, it was high during both the small and the large group conversations. And it turns out that not many neighbors knew each other. And this was a valuable time of connecting. But then, during that large group question and comment time, a man stood and stated, "I thought we were coming here to be told what you're doing with the property." Another person wondered why we were having the conversation when the church had never shown interest in the community and the neighborhood before. Another person jumped up and challenged, "Just level with us and tell us what you've already decided about the space." Heads bobbed in agreement. They expected church decisions to be made unilaterally and by the few people at the top of the hierarchy. They expected the church to dictate to the community what it will do. Once again, we as a team assured them that we were undecided and actively listening, using this meeting among other conversations to help inform the decision. This was greeted with outright suspicion. Those who had experience with church thought it to be a place with few at the table who actually made decisions of substance. And yet we were testing the idea in community, and we certainly expected that the community would co-create the church that they wanted to see, that would bring meaning to their lives that they needed. The meeting concluded, and still musing over being asked for their thoughts, one woman informed me, "I did not expect that." Another added, "We should do this more often." Furthermore, our expectation that if we move forward, we do it together and we experiment and try stuff and co-create a community together, they finally believed us. A lawyer in his late 30s approached me afterwards saying, "I'm going to have about 25, 30 neighbors over to my house next week to discuss starting this new church. Can you join us?" I couldn't. A young adult couple emailed me the next day asking if I could join them for a potluck they were hosting for friends in order to discuss the topic of starting a new church. This couple did not know anyone from the lawyers group who had initiated a similar conversation. Basically, there were pop-up meetings everywhere. I could not join all the community conversations that the neighbors decided to initiate, and they were taking the conversation further. We simply wanted to discern what God might be doing in their midst, in this neighborhood, and whether we were called to be a part of it. We had never asked anyone if they thought we should start a church. The community moved that conversation to the center and placed themselves in the middle of it. I received email after email, several of which sounded a lot like this email that I received the same night as the meeting. This woman wrote, "I don't know what I believe anymore. I don't know where I stand with God. I used to go to church, but I left it a long time ago. I felt like the church wanted me to wrap my life around it, rather than it wanting to wrap its life around me. I don't know who I am spiritually, but what I do know is that I need more of what happened tonight. And if you want help starting this new church, I'm in." In the end, there was a sense that if we moved forward with starting this community, we would experiment and co-create together. And in the end, we did just that. Our team gathered 12 people from the community to make up a PNC. Only one had even been Presbyterian before this and even knew what a pastor nominating committee was. We had a nationwide search for an organizing pastor. We talked a lot about what a church rooted in this community would look like, what it would mean. And then it was time for my work of testing the soil, plowing the land, getting everything ready for planting to be done. And they called Janelle Holmes to be organizing pastor of Ormewood Church. Decentralized participatory decision-making empowered and galvanized this community. This one leadership posture, which stated clearly that we would test ideas, experiment with what its work, and what this church would eventually look like, that posture, which said we will co-create, it touched on something they wanted in their lives. It let them decide what would bring meaning. They witnessed the church affirming the giftedness and voice of all people. They saw in action the core theological conviction that we are all one body composed of many parts, with many different gifts, all of which are essential. And this way of being so deeply resonated that it became a linchpin, absolutely crucial to people's formerly untapped, unrealized desire to be a part of a new worshiping community. We changed the balance of power, and they noticed. If we want to rebuild public trust in our churches, we have to let people get their hands on them. The real reason people don't trust institutions is that institutions do not trust them, offering occasional, insubstantial, often frustrating opportunities to take part, while the decisions that matter are often made by a few and behind closed doors. People want to feel involved, engaged, powerful, needed, connected. They know that it's not fair nor faithful to organize so much church decision-making around a few key people with a few specific gifts. And they affirm the giftedness of the entire body. And as a result, they want real agency. They want a seat at the table. They want access. They want to try things and be creative. They want to co-create rather than be told what will be done. So co-creation, testing ideas, we want to encourage this participatory decision-making. It empowers and promotes ownership and investment, and makes us more connected to each other in all of our many identities. It is the way we can build communities of deep meaning and so much more. So please test the ideas and co-create and do it again. We're created in the image of a creator, and following that creating God means we are all creatives, all able and wired to do this work, all able partners in the ongoing work of creation.
That's an incredible account of really going through the hard work of testing ideas and doing it collaboratively. I mean, you don't hear stories like that often. You really do hear of their fear of a church coming in and say, hey, this is what we're going to do. But instead here, the process in which you invited people to journey together and to test the waters to see, hey, is this the kind of place that we can even have a church, and to have a church like this, and then to see the entire community rally behind that? That's awesome. That's awesome. And I think the reason why we're sharing this is to really encourage all of you to test your ideas, not simply assume that what you're thinking is the correct thing to do, but really have the posture of seeking and searching. There's an author by the name of Robert Quinn. He is a professor at Harvard Business School, and he wrote a book. The title of the book is really the thesis of the book, and it talks about building a bridge while you're walking on. In fact, that's the title of the book. And I think when you're starting a new worshiping community, that's exactly what we're doing. We're leading change, we're creating something new, and we are building, figuratively speaking, a bridge while we're walking on. And as a result, we don't have all the information in front of us. We don't have all the data points in front of us. Therefore, we have to be willing to test and just try it out to see if it works, see if this is really what's going to manifest and really be part of what God is doing in this particular community. And instead of assuming, because we all know what assuming does, instead of assuming, working collaboratively to test ideas, I think really is the new way to do church, a spirit-led way of creating and building new worshiping communities.